Hi everybody. Today we're going to talk about what happens from a tax perspective when we sell crypto at a loss. Remember, this is not tax advice, it's not legal advice, this is educational in nature. In the United States, if we hold a crypto asset for more than a year, then it's called a long-term capital asset, and if we sell it at a gain, then that gain is taxed at favorable rates relative to our ordinary income, which is generally taxed at higher rates. If we hold a crypto asset for less than a year and we sell it at a gain, then it's called a short-term capital asset and a short-term capital gain, and that gain is taxed at the same rates that our ordinary income is taxed at. So it's taxed at the same rates that our salary, for example, is taxed at for income tax purposes. Things get a little bit more complicated when we sell crypto at a loss. If we have held a crypto asset for more than a year and sell it at a loss, then that loss would be called a long-term capital loss, and we can deduct it at the end of the year against our long-term capital gains. So for example, if we have a long-term capital gain of $10,000 from one crypto asset, and then we have a long-term capital loss of $3,000 from another crypto asset, we can deduct that long-term capital loss of $3,000 from the long-term capital gain of $10,000, which results in a long-term capital gain of $7,000 for tax purposes. If we have a crypto asset that we've held for less than a year and we sell it at a loss, then we can deduct that short-term capital loss from our short-term capital gains. And so again, if we have a gain of $5,000 from a crypto asset that we held for less than a year, and then we have a loss of $2,000 from a crypto asset that we've held for less than a year, we can deduct that $2,000 loss from the $5,000 short-term capital gain, yielding a short-term capital gain of $3,000. However, we cannot deduct short-term capital losses from long-term capital gains or long-term capital losses from short-term capital gains. So, for example, if someone has a lot of short-term capital losses and a lot of long-term capital gains, they can't use the short-term capital losses to offset their long-term capital gains, unfortunately. It's important to keep in mind an old tax adage that we shouldn't let the tax tail wag the dog. So in other words, what might be good from a tax perspective might not be good from some other more important perspective. So with that in mind, what can we take away from all of this jibber jabber from me? Well, someone who has lots of short-term capital gains, if they can structure things in a way that makes sense from their overall perspective, may want to take some short-term capital losses to offset those short-term capital gains, rather than let losses flow into a period that exceeds a year, thus making those losses a long-term capital loss and then not being able to take it against the short-term capital gains. Similarly, someone who has lots of long-term capital gains, if they can, may want to let some assets, may want to let the holding period of some assets extend past a year so that if they sell them at a loss, then they can take those long-term capital losses against those long-term capital gains. But remember that in general, short-term capital gains are going to be taxed at a higher rate than long-term capital gains. And so if there's a way to reduce those short-term capital gains, that can be a really beneficial thing. A few other things to think about. If capital losses exceed capital gains, then the amount of the capital losses that can be used to offset ordinary income is limited to only $3,000. So let's say that someone has zero capital gains and $100,000 of capital losses. They can use $3,000 of that $100,000 capital loss to offset ordinary income, but only $3,000. The remaining $97,000 worth of capital losses will carry over to the next year and continue to carry on until it's all used up. This video does not address wash sales. A wash sale is when someone buys a stock and then sells the stock to harvest a tax loss and then buys that same stock again within a very short period of time. Honestly, I don't know if those apply to crypto, those rules, those wash sale rules. I don't know if they apply to crypto or not. I've read that they don't. I haven't researched that myself. So this video does not address tax losses related to frequent buying and selling. Now, remember, none of this is tax advice. If you would like tax advice, make sure that you go and find a reputable and knowledgeable tax advisor to sit down with and explain your specific circumstances to, and get the help that you would like. So, thanks for making it all the way through this video. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a great day. Times can be hard, and I think it helps when we try to go help someone in need. And so if you have the opportunity and the means, whether it's in time or talent or financially, if you can help somebody, I urge you to go and do that. I hope this video has helped you in some way, and I wish you the best.